can tell you we've seen an absolute exhibition in Mirpur. At 69 for 6, you would have been forgiven for making a dinner booking wherever you are in the subcontinent. We were thinking maybe early finish, but never count those chickens, because from 69 for 6, another 202 runs were added for the loss of 1 wicket. Mehidy Hasan Miraj can seem to do no wrong, getting to his first ever ODI 100 of just 83 deliveries, and well supported by the stalwart Mahmudullah Riyad, and at the end a 50 partnership with Nasoom Ahmed. Surprise package there, and taking Bangladesh to 271 for 7. Here we were trying to look at our predictions. At one stage we felt that even Dinesh Karthik's 217 was out of reach. Then it looked within reach, and suddenly all 3 thresholds were crossed. Here to try and make some sense of that on Cricbuzz Live, both Joy and DK have joined me. DK, what a performance there from Mehidy Hasan Miraj.
Terrific performance from Bangladesh as a batting unit, especially the lower middle order. You don't expect these kind of scores from a Mehidy Hasan and a Mahmudullah. Yes, definitely. But Mehidy Hasan just standing up when it mattered. Crunch game has done really well. I think the way he batted, the way he paced his inning right from the outset, playing some shots and, clearing the field out so that he could take the singles. Well-paced inning, and really well done to him. I think Bangladesh, as a cricketing nation, would be very proud with the way he's just found a way to come in those tough situations and deliver.
And not once, but twice. Previous game, 50 partnership for the 10th wicket, and now you're thinking, surely he can't do it again, because they really looked down and out at 69 for 6.
He's just shown oodles of temperament. I mean, and playing the situation, knowing how to play the situation. And I was just going back to the fact that if you remember that 2016, I think it was the Under-19 World Cup in Dhaka, and he was the player of the tournament. And that's the tournament where they first saw him and said that, he's a kind of guy who can control games, even if he's coming as a late bowling all-rounder. And after that, the strides he's taken. I mean, if you look at it today, even if nothing happens from here on, he's definitely a candidate for player of the tournament already. The kind of performances he's put in. And what I liked is the way that, did you see the last over carefully? The first ball of the last over. And Nasoom Ahmed has been striking it really well, 18 off in 11 balls. But the first ball, the moment it's going down, they quickly run a single, because Mehidy Hasan was sure he wanted strike. Even though the other guy was going at 18 for 11, he said, I want the strike, I want to finish it, and of course I want to get my century as well.
Yeah, it was unbelievable stuff. Getting to 181 was his previous highest score, and surpassed that under circumstances that you wouldn't have expected him to do so. Before the T20 World Cup, DK, he was even tried by Bangladesh as an opener when they were experimenting, trying to get their combination right. So it obviously shows that he's been doing something right for them to be able to look at him in any position.
Yes, I think in New Zealand they tried him as an opener as well. He, did fairly well. I remember him when we were playing Bangladesh in the nets. He was batting, and those side armers were throwing really hard at him, and he was trying to practice his batting and trying to play a few shots. But that was a really spicy wicket. He was finding it hard, so he's trying those laps and reverse laps, and you could see all of those shots coming off right now. And he's given a lot of thought to his batting. Every team right now needs an all-rounder with the current rules, because you need to bowl with 5 in the circle. So if he can add batting as a facet to his bowling, that would give Bangladesh a lot of freedom to obviously play the 11 that they would want to play, considering they have a Shakib who's also an all-rounder. So I think he is giving them that flexibility, and he looks really solid. And the right word to use is he's got a great temperament, and that is something that you want to see in middle-order cricketers, and he has bundles of them.
That's the word that you echoed to start the show with. But when DK mentioned the lap, he was even able to adapt the lap when it wasn't quite coming off for him. He thought he would be playing it to the leg side. Ball was quick from Umran Malik. Yeah. And he just opens the face slightly and plays the same lap towards third man.
Yeah. No, he again, able to adjust yourself, good hands, adjust yourself late. But more than anything else, I mean, just the way, see the acceleration. They were not, it's not, if you see, it's not that Mahmudullah and him were trying to whack the ball right from the start. It was a sedate start, and after that, if you just see it, how beautifully this has been paced. So they're really in trouble, 11 for 26 down now. They're really in trouble. And then the next stage, they go 10 overs, 53, decent. Then the Indian bowlers get back. Akshar Patel bowls a bit better. If you remember, they attacked Akshar in that middle stage. At 21 to 30, they attacked Akshar Patel. The next one was slightly better. And then in the final, they go completely berserk. And when you expect they've got a wicket, Mahmudullah's gone. Just when Mahmudullah's trying to open up, Naseem Ahmed comes and whacks the ball around. So, and when he hits it straight past a bowler bowling at 145. So, it was a perfect, it was an perfect innings progression from Bangladesh actually.
Yeah, you've got to give credit to them, but 100 plus in the last 10 overs, DK, anything different the bowlers could have done?
One of the things that I felt was the use of the bouncer and the yorker. They tried a lot more knuckle balls in the slower balls with the mid-on and mid-off up. I felt the use of the bouncer and the yorker could have been far more. That was what I felt, because the slower balls were still coming onto the bat, which is a good sign, which tells me that when India bats, that ball will come on. So that is, as a batter, you want that to happen. So that is good. But could they have used the yorker and the yorker and the bouncer better is a question that they need to be asking themselves.
And I think when we saw it used sparsely, when it was used, it seemed effective. Even towards the end, when Umran Malik was being able to bowl to Naseem, the one ball he bowled, which was a yorker, dug it out, but it was something he couldn't score off.
No, exactly. My point was that really today's day and age, it's very difficult for you to bowl length to any batsman. Even a batsman who's a number 8, number 9 batsman today, in length, what is he going to do? There are 2 overs left, he's going to clear his feet and give it a whack. If it goes, it goes. And that's exactly what happened. Too many length balls were bowled to players who, under normal circumstances, you shouldn't be bowling that much to. And I think, again, forget about getting a foot in the throat. You're 89 for 6. Okay, there was a bit of trouble. Obviously, Deepak Chahar had some sort of an injury. We still don't know what it is, and he didn't come back. But that card will make you look at it and wonder, because Umran Malik had a very good first 5 overs. He had a really good first 5 overs. He was looking threatening, he was looking fast, he was looking as if he was doing something. And though he did get a wicket finally in his second spell, he didn't really look the same bowler as he was, his third spell actually. He bowled 2 in the middle, comes back for 3 in the end. He didn't look, I felt he bowled way too much length. And they were able to guess what he was doing and they adjusted accordingly. I never thought the batsmen were kept guessing by the bowler as to what he's trying to do. I think and every time that they bowled the slow one, they got it whacked over their heads.
Yeah, for his first spell, 5 overs for 8 runs. He had a couple of maidens in there as well. When we saw the stumps cartwheeling, you were thinking, okay, this is Umran we've been waiting for. You wouldn't expect the next 5 to go for 50.
I think when it comes to Umran, we need to understand his strengths. In the time that he has shown us his skills, it's been mostly through the middle. Even if you see Sunrisers, the way they've used him is mostly between 7 and 15. They haven't exposed him at the depth so much, because I think with his pace, he needs to get his yorkers right. Otherwise, there are a lot of balls that are going to be put away for boundaries. Through the middle, he's very effective. And you saw that as well. As soon as the power play got over, he came in and showed how effective he was. That is an area of bowling that he needs to get better at. I think bowling with the new ball is something that would probably come a little better for him. But bowling at the depth, and when you're bowling at that speed, you tend to go for a lot of boundaries. You don't get your lengths right. So that is something that he'll be able to, needs to rather work on a lot, bowling at the depth, especially if there is no reverse swing. Then at that speed, then you tend to get hit for a lot of boundaries. That is one aspect of his game that he will definitely be having a close look at.
Yeah, and when DK and I were on Combox, we were discussing Akshar Patel's outing being just a little bit disappointing. He improved a little bit in his second spell, as you said, but his overall returns for the day, 7 overs for 40, sort of reflective of the day he had.
Very average day. And Akshar, when you have Washington Sundar there, and Washington Sundar is a decent bowler, but he's not the spinner with the reputation that Akshar Patel has. And I think Washington Sundar's performance was far better. He tossed the ball a little bit, gave it a little bit more air. Okay, that's not Akshar's game. But Akshar is normally a very restrictive bowler. To hit him, you really need to whack it. So I think they countered him effectively and he didn't look, maybe it's the injury that slowed him down, maybe it's lack of match practice. The first 5 overs, he just didn't look like the Akshar that was there. Having said that, I still believe that this is a better pitch than we've been led to believe. At least it played normal. The other thing is, it doesn't seem to have as much carry, and the ball's not taking off. You remember that Shakib going down to Umran Malik and then getting hit on his back. It's not taking off as much as it took off yesterday. I don't know what has been the difference over the last 48 hours, but it just doesn't look the same.
But it did appear that the Bangladesh batsmen adapted well. 69 for 6. The fireworks came at the end, 10 overs, 100 runs. But I think it was that crucial partnership. The highest for any wicket. There you go, 148 runs in 165 balls the highest against India for any wicket. Mehidy Hasan's contribution there 66, Mahmudullah 75 DK. And while obviously we talk about a guy who goes on to get 100 and you're full of praise for him, we mentioned Mahmudullah, not enough cricket under his belt. He was well within himself, but his experience came to the fore.
Definitely. I think this is what he's picked for in the Bangladesh team. I think he is able to absorb pressure through the middle, and I think that is his biggest strength. And then we know at the back end, he is expected to explode, and that's what he did today before he got out. So the critical phase for him was taking the team from 6 wickets down for like 60 odd into a safe place, which is what he did. And until then, like you said, he'd obviously played it a little safe, but the moment he knew that he could carry on and start exploding, and he got those boundaries which was required, played an innings of a person who's used to playing in these situations and who has experience. That's what you would require. Mehidy Hasan complimented him really well, but Mahmudullah played a very, very serious hand in taking Bangladesh to that safe spot from where they could launch.
You could see he needed someone at the other end, Mehidy Hasan. Despite what he didn't done in the previous game, despite what he's capable of doing, he needed that little calming hand on his shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mahmudullah is their designated finisher in one-day cricket for a very, very long time. Exactly. Because, again, masterful reading of the situation, masterful reading of, okay, this is what I'm going to play out. This is where I'm going to start hitting. And not taking risks up front when you had so many wickets down. He didn't take any risks up front. He allowed the other batsmen to go. He perfectly, it's like marshalling the situation, knowing, okay, this much I'm going to do. And then this, and finally, when he finally got out to an absolute fantastic catch from KL Rahul, he had already done his part. Of course, the fact that Naseem Ahmed already gave it another kicker at the end was not expected. But already by that time, Bangladesh had reached what they would have thought to be a competitive total by that time. They've already started getting the pieces together.
Yeah, we've been throwing out the numbers at you. Under 210 is the average first innings total. When it comes to winning scores, well, that gets into the 260s. Bangladesh have got past that. There you go. Let's show you these figures again. Average winning score 263. Bangladesh above that average. Lowest total defended 246. We're not looking at that for the moment. India handicapped by the possible loss of Rohit Sharma. We don't have a firm update, but from the fact that he never came back from in the fielding innings at all is an indication that he will probably take no further part in this match and probably even beyond. Putting all that into context, Dinesh Karthik, and the fact that Bangladesh have got now an above par total, it's going to be a proper test for India. Possibly Virat Kohli, the chase master, will be in focus.
Yes, he has said it, or he said it before, that sometimes in bilaterals, he finds it hard to motivate himself. But this is a game that I think he'll come all guns blazing. And I say that because he's failed in the first innings. The series is on the line, so he will come out with his A game. And that is something that is very obvious when it comes to Virat Kohli. And this is a situation unlike others wherein you need to level the series. So I'm sure he'll bring his A game to the fore. And those three spinners that they're playing, that is going to be his biggest challenge. How he's going to tackle them. The Shakib, Naseem Ahmed, and Mehidy Hasan Miraz. They will be bowling a lot through the middle to Virat Kohli. So it'll be some interesting times to see how he fares against them.
It's almost been a while that he's not been the first point of discussion. You know, the openers, Shikhar and Rohit, what a wonderful combination. Who fits in at 4? There's no Surya, so Shreyas. Therefore, 5, 6, 7, we've got the all-rounders. And there's Virat there. Today, I think, as DK said, it's got to be Virat. And who else plays around him with no Rohit Sharma opening the batting?
No, absolutely. And I think, look, I expect KL Rahul to slot into the opening slot, just not for any other reason, but because they need to give it. He's used to playing in that position, get him in there, keep the right, left going. Then Virat at 3, and maybe the batting order just shrinks just a bit. But I think that's a logical way to go. But remember one more thing. One is Virat. The second is India actually, we look at India and we look at its track record in not being able to finish big tournaments, ICC tournaments and all. But India's bilateral performance has been really fantastic. The second is they've very rarely lost 2 games in a row in bilateral series. You go and look at their record over the last 2-3 years, they've rarely lost 2 games in a row. So that there's a lot of pride at stake, and there's a lot of pride of an Indian team who is used to getting the job done. And I think that's where Virat, it needs to come to his pride. It needs to come to his sense and say, I am not going to let ourselves down at that. And that's a sensational record, 72.27 in any ground. Of course, there's only one stat that I'll put against that, which is the stat of the guy on the other side, which is that Shakib Al Hasan has 127 wickets on this ground. So the original record, the first guy to get 100 wickets as single ground was, of course, Wasim Akram at Sharjah, where he was practically, they would have made him the king sultan if he had stayed a few more years. But other than that, 127 wickets here, Shakib knows this ground like the back of his hand.
44% of all wickets that he's taken have been at one ground. There you go. Have a look at it. This is just Shakib Hasan at Mirpur. 127 wickets. Best of 5 for 36. 51 maidens. And of course, 3 days ago, another fifer. Fresh in the memory.
Yes, I think, like we speak about batting, bowling, obviously, when it comes to experience, Shakib is at the forefront of that. And he's somebody who has played a lot in Mirpur. The stats say that, and also says that Bangladesh play a lot in this ground. So it is something that he'll be very used to, very comfortable with. But he knows he'll be up against the challenge when he obviously bowls to a Virat Kohli, KL Rahul, a Shreyas Iyer, who's a good player of spin. But if Rohit is not batting, we have one batter less, and we don't know about Deepak Chahar. So that could, technically speaking, we're batting with 8 batters. So it's going to be interesting to see how India come up against it. So it'll be a very interesting chase, especially through the middle. If they kind of find a way to stop those singles, then what happens is you in many ways have to take a risk to hit that boundary, and that's when you'll get that wicket. So it's going to be a bit of a cat and mouse sort of a chase, but I can see India doing well in this wicket the way it has panned out so far.
Interesting to see Shikhar Dhawan's role here, because at the start of the show, on the assumption, of course, that Rohit was alongside, on the assumption that Bangladesh wouldn't get too many and it would be more relaxed run chase, suddenly things have changed. The onus is on him, but again, come at the hour for Shikhar.
Absolutely. And somebody needs to give an explosive start, because if you have a comparatively shrunken order, you're missing 2 batsmen, one definitely, possibly 2 batsmen, you're in a situation where the job has to get done early. And if they have to get done early and you know that you have 3 really high quality spinners, then what happens? It's upfront that you've got to make the difference. You cannot have a 10 for 50, as DK was saying. You cannot have a 10 for 50. You've got to have a 10 for 65, 10 for 70. Push it up front, because once the 3 spinners come and there's 30 overs of spin in the middle, it's going to be much tougher to this thing. Also, it's quite very, very possible that they throw one of the spinners at you early. Given the fact that they're playing 3 of them, it's eminently possible. Shakib has been known to take the ball early. You could have a spinner taking the ball early.
And also, from the last game, Ibadat did really well with his 4 wickets. So let's not discount that effort that they have. The Fizz maybe had a bit of an off day. So if he's due to come good, at least Bangladesh have lots of weapons to throw at India. So you could not get a better test going back to the start of the series when we said, okay, road to 2023. You don't want it just to be random matches. You want to be put in situations that will stand you in good stead come the World Cup. And here's one.
Most definitely, GB. I think why has Bangladesh done so well? Because their bowlers have done well. That's how you win matches. And I think their strength has been the fact that they're able to, in many ways, crush the opponent through the middle. And it happens a lot through spin. And with the influx of Ibadat through the middle, who's able to bowl those bouncers and those hard length balls, obviously they're making things slightly difficult. I do think Ibadat will go for a lot of runs today because of the length he bowls and the wicket, the way it is panned out. But again, I will say, how we play those 3 bowlers, the 30 overs shouldn't go anywhere, at least should go 130, 135 runs. That will give India the best chance of pushing forward in this game.
Yeah, but I guess as we reiterated, the power play is going to be absolutely critical.
Power play is going to be absolutely critical. And then, because if you have the power play and you do a good power play, that allows you to play the next 20, 30 overs with a little bit of confidence. If you're going at a run rate of 6, 6.5 at that point in time, then you can say if 1 or 2, 3 ball, 3 run, 4 run overs go, you're not going to panic immediately. You're going to say, okay, my run rate is still up there, I'll make it up. But if you go at 45 up front, then the 2, 3 run overs, small overs tend to weigh on you a lot. So I think that's what they do. If Shikhar and maybe Rahul play well up front, they free the Indian middle order a little bit, give them a little bit more what we call maneuvering space. Otherwise, run rate will climb on you very fast.
Would there even have been another option, or is it an absolutely obvious choice to go with KL Rahul having kept for 50 overs?
So generally what happens is, if you don't have another opener, you tend to send number 3 as opening, and then you obviously fit in one below that through the lineup. But in this case, when we have a full-time opener in KL Rahul who's very comfortable doing it, I don't think they'll think twice. It'll only be a case of KL Rahul coming up the order. The only thing that we have to think about KL Rahul is he's not a full-time keeper. So to keep 50 overs takes a certain amount of toll on your body. To go out there immediately and start batting is not something that he is used to doing. But on one odd occasion like that, I'm sure he's up to a challenge as well. He's the captain. He'd want to lead from the front. But I can still see, I have a strong feeling India will go down the tried and tested route where they'll be close to 135, 140 at the end of 30 overs. And then the last 20 overs is when they'll press the accelerator. Because I feel that's the template India follow, and that is what they will be doing here as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was really the pertinent part of the question I was throwing to our wicketkeeper on the panel. Keeping for 50 overs, how much toll does it take? And I think DK answered that maybe on a one-off occasion, it's okay. He wouldn't want to be a regular opener if he's keeping 50 overs.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I remember even somebody like a Rahul Dravid who used to, bat at 4 in those days for India in the 90s. And it was a struggle. I mean, keeping 50 and then opening. Gilchrist, of course, you have many such players in those days, but it requires a serious amount of physical fitness.
So maybe then those first 15 overs, remember at the start of the show I was mentioning how we were all in contention with our numbers. We started with 217, other end of the spectrum was 249. We were 100% sure it's got to fall well within that. And of course, Mehidy Hasan and Nasum made sure it went well beyond, which means we're getting a second bite at the cherry to try and guess India's power play score. Not so much a guess as an estimation in terms of what we feel the approach should be. So I think at this stage, let's try and sink our teeth into that one. Joy, I'll let you go first on this one.
69.
69, 15 overs, just a shade under 5. All right. Could it be even more aggressive than that?
No, I think I was just going to say 71, so I'll stay very close to Joy on that one.
71. 69,
71.
You can go both ways now. Your visa is no longer in any danger. All Bangladeshi supporters are really happy at the performance. So your visa is not in danger. Say whatever you want to. No consequences.
No, I think they'll try and keep wickets in hand. Maybe a little bit more conservative. It'll come as between the 15 and 30 over mark will be the first acceleration. Then will come the second. So I'm going to go a little bit lower than that at 64. I'm going to go for 64, 69. 71. That's where we're looking at the possible spectrum, but it's going to be a 15 overs well worth watching because the onus is on India now to try and make everything out of this series. 1-0 up, Bangladesh. They've put the runs on the board. They put more runs on the board than we thought was possible. We will, of course, be assessing all that at the 15 over mark on Cricbuzz Combox. For now, for this mid-show in ODI number 2 from Joy, from DK and myself, that's all on Cricbuzz Live.